chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes and gravy. You can do it. It's easy. I'm going to show you how. The first thing I'm going to do is peel potatoes because I've got to make mashed potatoes in order to have mashed potatoes and gravy with my chicken fried steak. So I've got some water boiling over here. There's no big secret to this. I just use this kind of peeler and just strip these potatoes, cutting out the eyes. Once you've got all your potatoes peeled, I'm a big believer you should cut these into sections to boil them, mainly because it gives them more surface area boiling and they boil much faster. I just like to cut the potato in half and then half again. If it's really big, you can cut a few sections. I'm just going to slide these potatoes into the boiling water, and I'm going to let them cook for about 15 to 20 minutes. Even longer. It's not going to hurt them to overboil. In the meantime, I'm going to start some oil in this pan and get ready to start producing the steak. Okay, for the meat, I'm just using a bottom round steak that has been sliced. This actually came from Sam's Club. Really doesn't matter. You just need a round steak of some type. You could use a better steak if you like. It's kind of a waste. Sirloin, whatever you want. And these are cut pretty thin. But one thing I am going to do is cut this strip of fat off of the edge like so. And then this is a piercer. When you push this down, the needles come through. We're just going to pierce this a few times to break that up a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to take my meat hammer and with the piercing side and do that to both sides. Repeat that with each one of the steaks, and then we'll get them ready to bread. As you can see, Barkley has decided to join us because he saw the meat. All right, we're going to make an egg wash and a breading. So in the egg wash, what I'm going to start with is just 2 large eggs into this bowl. And you can use milk, you can use half and half, you can use heavy cream. I like half and half. So we're going to put enough of that to cover the bottom of the bowl and then just lightly whisk it together. You don't want to fluff this cream up. Meanwhile, I have turned the heat on the oil, so it's starting to warm up at medium high. We're just going to lightly mix this together. Make our egg wash. Then we'll make a breading. Now for this, it's going to be really simple. I'm going to start out with just some all-purpose flour. I'm going to get a couple of, probably 2, maybe 3 good scoops of it in there. Then we're going to add some seasoning. So I'm going to use a little bit of onion powder, maybe about not even quite a teaspoon. Some granulated garlic, and all of these about the same amount, probably about a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon at the most. Some sage. Basil. Thyme. A little bit of red chili powder. And last but not least, the blend, salt, pepper, and garlic. And I'll probably use a couple teaspoons of this. Got a fresh whisk. Just going to mix that all together. Take one of your steaks. I fold them in half. You don't need to. It's just kind of habit. into the wet. Keep one hand dry. Work it around in there pretty good. You can hear my oil getting ready in the background, or maybe you can't. Back to the wet. Back to the dry. And I like to kind of make sure you get it coated, but pressing it into there pretty good. And that one's ready to go into the fryer. Just repeat that step with your steaks, and then we'll go to the grease. My potatoes are pretty much done, and I'm just going to go ahead and kind of move them around a little bit. Again, take the tension off of them. As you do this, you can kind of run your spatula through and see if it just slides right through, which it does. So they are done cooking. We're going to take them off the heat. In the meanwhile, we are ready to start the main event. So when you take one of these steaks, you're just going to lay it into this oil as flat as you can. And let them begin to fry. I like to cover this so it doesn't splash everywhere, but you don't have to. We're going to drain the potatoes and get ready to make the mashed potatoes. We'll build the gravy and show you the next step. When your potatoes have cooled just a little bit, just go ahead and strain them right into a colander. I leave a tiny bit of water in the bottom of the bowl. I'm going to drop the potatoes right into my mixing bowl. I'm going to turn these over. It's only been about 3 minutes. Those are almost done. I'm going to go ahead and add one more into the grease since it's hot. And let those finish. And we'll get ready to take them out here in just a moment. So my first two steaks are done. I'm going to take them out and lay them on these paper towels, which are sitting on a baking tray. And then I'm just going to hit them with a little bit of salt. And let them rest. We're going to turn our attention to the potatoes. Sitting here in the KitchenAid stand mixer, I've got my potatoes. I'm going to take some garlic butter. Now, this is all really to taste. And I like a couple of big lumps of garlic butter in here. In fact, there's only a little bit more left in this tub, so I'm going to wind up putting about 3 tablespoons. The heat of that is going to start to melt the butter, but I'm also going to add some salt, pepper, and garlic. It doesn't take very much, maybe a teaspoon. And then a little bit of half and half. You can use milk if you'd rather. You just need enough to cover the bottom of the bowl. You always want to start out with less than you think you need because you don't want it to be too thin. You can always add milk. I'm going to put this splash guard on, even though it's not really going to stop it from splashing, and turn the mixer on. At this point, I can take the guard off and let that do its thing. That's about the perfect consistency, so I'll just let it go. When that's done, there's some perfectly whipped mashed potatoes. All right, so the only thing left to do is make the gravy. So in a medium saucepan, I'm going to turn this to about medium. I've got this leftover breading. I've got some more salt, pepper, and garlic, and I've got half and half. Then I've also got this grease that's still hot, and we're going to make the gravy from that. I've got 3 tools. I've got a whisk. I've got a good dipping tool here, and I've got a straining device that sits into the pan. All very important. So we're going to start by taking just a little bit of this hot grease out of the pan with some of the burnt stuff and put that on the bottom. You don't need very much. I mean, we're talking a minuscule amount. Let that start to heat up and add half and half. And the measurements here are how much do you need. You can continue to add more. You can't take it away. Let this get hot. Okay, don't do anything else till that gets hot other than add a little bit of seasoning. And you don't need much. Maybe a teaspoon at the most. And whisk this together so that it doesn't scorch while that cream starts to warm. I can hear the cream starting to come to a light boil. I don't want it at a roaring boil. Move it around just a little bit. Take some of my dry stuff here and just kind of let it work itself in without becoming a giant pile of mess. And you can probably start to see that thicken. And there you have a cream gravy. Okay, I admit I cheated. I made a can of green beans in the microwave, but I made everything else. I mean, you saw it, right? Nothing out of a box. So let's plate this up. There couldn't be anything easier than this. We're going to start with a big pile of mashed potatoes, however many your heart desires. And then one of these lovely pieces of chicken fried steak. Some cream gravy over the top. And then some canned green beans for color. This was by request. Chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes and gravy, homemade, really simple. You can do it, I promise you. If there's something you'd like me to make, all you got to do is drop me a line, bill@kansasflamingochef.com. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Eat fabulous. I'll see you on the next one.